just because somebody's doing a great job in the current position that they're in does not mean that they're ready for a promotion. The mission of the practice is bigger than any one person. I'm giving you the clinical lead job. I'm giving you the front desk coordinator job, and it doesn't work that way. A title change doesn't mean anything. And you saying that they're a leader means nothing. I don't want to think about this anymore. I'm tired. So you look like you look like you're capable. Let me give it to you. And so you just dump it. So I've had people like, do I have to do this? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm scared to say anything. Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It is Brandy Mabra. And today we are talking about how to promote your team. Yes. How to promote your team in their next leadership gap, more specifically. Over the past several episodes of CEO Conversations, we've dived deep into leadership. Like leadership. And there is a big difference between identifying somebody who is going to be a really great leader, somebody being trained up to be a leader, and then having somebody just throwing them into leadership and saying like, here you go and fly, little birdie, and they don't have wings to do it. Right. So it's a big difference. And there's also a big difference between giving someone a title of leadership and then them actually being a leader. Right. So to go back as a review, there's 3 different types of team members. There is the doer, the owner, and the leader. Oftentimes what happens is that the owner and the doer look like that they will be a really great leader. And I know even from my journey, I've done this a few times, and that's not even counting, like a few times where I've promoted somebody because I saw potential in them and thinking like, oh, they're going to be so great. I'm going to be able to delegate. I'm going to be able to do all this stuff. And it doesn't work. And it's because they did not have the strengths that they needed in order to fulfill the job. And so when we think about job performance, just because somebody's doing a great job in the current position that they're in does not mean that they're ready for a promotion. Matter of fact, 9 in 10 chances they probably aren't even ready for a promotion. The biggest thing when you're actually promoting somebody into a more of a leadership position is they have to be comfortable with leading, and not everybody wants to lead. There are some people who enjoy being behind the scenes, some people who want to be in the background, and some people who do not want to sit there and try to bring out the best in somebody, and somebody who maybe wants to try to influence somebody to move a certain direction or have to give somebody else's message. And that is okay. So if you're listening to this podcast, then you might be thinking of like, oh, I have this really great team member who would be a phenomenal, I definitely could see them doing X, Y, and Z. I love that for you. And I think that is definitely like one of the traits of a great leader is you're able to spot talent. You need to be able to spot talent. It would make sense. Let me give them a leadership title. And so if I give them this title, then they should automatically form into this leader, right? Because we changed your job description. Maybe even gotten a raise. And so you should be able to just do this job. So I'm giving you the practice manager job. I'm giving you the director job. I'm giving you the clinical lead job. I'm giving you the front desk coordinator job. And it doesn't work that way. Like it just doesn't. Like you're trying to through osmosis or, just through the ESP of the mind to try to get somebody to perform. And unless if they've been in that position before and they've done it well, because I'll say that too. Sometimes people will apply for jobs. I've fallen in that boat too, where somebody will apply and they'll say, oh, I have 2 years of being a manager. And then you get them in and you're like, this is not the kind of manager I need. So at the end of the day, it's tricky. It is tricky. A title does not mean that this person is actually going to show leadership presence, that they're going to be comfortable with leading a team, that they're going to be comfortable with the accountability that a team requires, that they're going to be comfortable with really all the nuances when you get a group of people together and you try to get them on board in order to move in one direction. That is a skill set. And so when you promote somebody and you give them this title change, you're doing an inservice and an injustice to that person if you do not make sure that they are onboarded correctly, that they're not trained correctly, or that you have not set them up for success as they're navigating some of the things that leadership can bring. A title change doesn't mean anything. And you saying that they're a leader means nothing, right? So they have to embrace that identity for themselves, and you can't make that belief for them. So it's more or less of when you identify somebody on your team who is going to be truly promoted, did you set them up before the promotion in order for them to be successful, right? And what that means is that you've given them test projects. You've set them up in front of the team already. So you might know, oh, this is your future leader, but did you set them up to be in front of the team as their future leader, right? And so you can do this through a number of different ways. You can do this through giving them a special project that you think would be in alignment with their growth plan. I'm saying growth plan. Probably a lot of people who are listening to this podcast maybe don't have, unless if you're inside a private practice CEO, don't have growth plans for their team. Did you talk to them about what they want for their career? I think oftentimes people take the offense if somebody says that they don't want to do something inside of your practice, and that's okay. One of the things I will always say is that leaders help create other leaders. And sometimes that means that it's not going to happen inside of your practice. And that's all right. Like if you can get somebody who can step into a leadership position and they can be with you for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they can leave your practice better than the way that they found it, and they can go off and do amazing things, that's a win. That's a win for you, and that's a win for them, right? So at the end of the day, you do test things in order to set them up. So the test projects, also, if there's an agenda item that's on a team meeting, delegate it. Can they talk about it? Can they be an ambassador for something that's happening inside of the practice? So the person who is wanting to set folks up for team engagement, community engagement, special clinical programs inside of your practice, like all of these things are opportunities for you to identify who is a leader, and not just where I'm seeing it, but honestly, your team sees it. So further on in my career, I got really great at identifying, oh, I see you as a leader, but it's not enough for me to see you as a leader, but also the team sees you as a leader, because the team, once I set up my team, I set up my team for people to start going to other people and not just those with titles. Right. So I could see like who is a resource amongst the team, who is somebody who naturally wants to train, somebody who naturally isn't afraid to speak up, is somebody who is naturally good at bringing people together. Right. And so I started to watch and observe for the team and for myself to know like who could be up next. And that took a load off in so many different ways, because it allowed for me to go beyond just even the person who maybe I identified as like the director that was on my team at the time, or even the manager that might have been on my team at the time, and go into, oh, well, this person right here, they're doing really great work. And also they're bringing something more to the table. Let me delegate to them. Let me see if they're interested. So your whole team, like the richest team, the highest performing teams, have not just leaders with titles, but have leaders who are showing up as leaders amongst the team, people who are owning the work that they're doing and making sure that they're involved, people who are doing, but also not just doing and saying, well, this is my lane, this is my area, I don't do that. No, they're like, okay, I'm done with what I'm doing. You look like you need help. Let me help you. Let me help you do. So it's deeper than just you identifying. And a lot of times when you are promoting, you're just looking for someone, let me hand off this responsibility. I don't want to think about this anymore. I'm tired. So you look like you look like you're capable. Let me give it to you. And so you just dump it on this person, on this poor being who is just like, sure, I'll try it. I'll do it. Absolutely. Or they're in a place of, yeah, I really need the raise. I need the money. Let me make more money. So yes, I'll tell you yes. And then they get into it, and a lot of times they don't even like it. So I've had people like, do I have to do this? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm scared to say anything. So there was a situation where I had a team member, and amazing job. amazing job. She was a doer. She was a very strong doer. She also had some opinions. Sometimes all opinions aren't good opinions. And she had good opinions, but she also had some strong opinions. And I mistakenly thought, oh, you'll tell me exactly what you think. And that's good until it's not, right? And so with this particular team member, we decided to make her a site coordinator. And so a site coordinator is a really great job title if you have a specific location and you need somebody to help lead this location and you don't want to give them a manager title or a director title, you give them a site coordinator title. But there was a whole team that was with her. And so there was maybe about 10 team members that were part of this location. And so she was there to help lead this location. And so again, strong doer. She did a little bit of owning and she was opinionated. So what did I do? I promoted her. So she went from team member to site coordinator. She was actually specifically an RN and she got promoted to a site coordinator. Oh, goodness. So it was interesting because the opinionatedness that I thought was good ended up team complaints coming to me. So-and-so just said this to me. I don't think that's appropriate. I was getting emails that were completely disrespectful of what she thought of my decision making and what she thought that I should do in certain situations and what she would have done in certain situations. And again, I don't think you should have a yes team. However, I do think that there should be a mutual respect for each other as you're navigating leadership, and the leadership has to be a strong partnership. So it went bad really fast. And so again, the other thing is as I started to delegate things to her, she would get them done. She's a doer. However, I started to need her to lead more when it came to the team meetings, projects, audits, just naturally. And if I didn't tell her to do it, well, you didn't tell me to do it. I didn't know I needed to do it. You didn't say that. But it's part of the role. It's part of the role. We had gone through orientation. That was on the job description. So some of it was a learning lesson for how I communicated. Some of it was a learning lesson for what really that role needed in the business culture. So it's also what helped me form the 3 things that you need inside of any position. And so it goes back to the culture fit has to be there, the strengths has to be there, and the skill set has to be there. And when I think about just the people who I've hired and the people who I've promoted, I always now look through that lens. Is it a good culture fit? Is the skill set there? And is the strengths there? With her specifically, culture fit, no. Skill set, maybe. Strengths, absolutely not. So that was one situation that went bad. Another situation, same thing. She was actually another RN. And I promoted her to a site coordinator. And it was like night and day. Exact same orientation, exact same onboarding, training, job description. However, she was more of a leadership presence, right? She was culture fit, amazing. Team loved her. Team felt comfortable talking to her, asking questions. She had opinions, but the way that she talked about her opinions was, I think that this is a better way. What do you think? Or how about we try this? It was more of a respect. From a skill set, amazing. Skill set, I could build on it. Some additional leadership training, which she got. Strengths, relationship builder, was able to execute, was able to definitely make sure that she had buy-in from the team. Night and day difference. Fast forward to this person now, she actually took a previous position that I was in. So again, leaders help create other leaders. And so at the end of the day, you start with the right leader or who you have identified, and also recognizing that there are specific times where you can give a title to somebody and it doesn't mean that that person is going to actually step up to that title. And you can also give a title to someone else who will knock it out of the park and go out and get a better title for themselves because of the work that you've done with them. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, yes, I am resonating with what you're saying. And you might have identified a person who you want to promote or you want to move into a leadership role. Here's what you don't want to do, right? You don't want to fit a square peg into a round hole. if you are seeing somebody and you're like, oh, I really want this for them, but the practice is trumping that, then you have to meet the need of the practice. So one of the things I always say is that the mission of the practice is bigger than any one person. And the reason why I say that is because you can try to force people into roles. It's the same thing where you're hiring out of desperation. You can promote out of desperation. And you don't want to promote out of desperation because you're not setting the practice up for success, and you're not setting yourself up for success. And you're definitely not setting up that team member for success. So the best thing that you can do is you have to sit down and think about, what does the practice need? And you have to stop. And a lot of times when you're wanting to promote, it's because you want to get these things off of your plate so anybody looks good. Anybody on your team looks great, and it's just like, oh, you look capable. You have a pulse, and you cannot promote that way. You have to set them up for success. And so the thinking time is so important. And to sit down, if you don't have a job description for this particular promotion, then write the job description. If you have a job description, sit down and think about, have I captured everything that this position actually entails? Then think about the person who you want to put in it. And I guarantee you one or two things is going to happen. Either you're going to be like, yep, they actually check off all these boxes. Yep, they can do this. Yep, they can do that. Yep, they know how to do this. Or you're going to go through and be like, no, 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 no. And so you have a choice. If you choose to still promote them, then be prepared for time and energy to train them up, and be willing to give that time and energy to train them up. And do not sit up there and say, well, I ain't got time to train. You should have known. That's not fair. That's not fair. Even going back to the story that I shared, when I promoted the person who I thought that was going to be great and wonderful, that wasn't fair to her, right? There were some things, if I had sat down with this exercise, there were a lot of things that probably would have came up that nope, as I was going through the job description. So sit down with the job description with the clarity, and then also thinking about the position today, but also think about the position this time next year, right? So when you think about where the practice is going, how are they going to meet that need? And how are you going to make sure that they're set up to meet that need? What's going to be their future training? What's going to be the future conversations? What's going to be the future team size? Sometimes what happens is, and I'm an example of this, is going from a team of 3 to a team 100 plus, from a location of 1 to a locations of 20 plus. Like, I'm an example of my skill set had to evolve as my career evolved. That person who's sitting in that seat today, with whatever title that they have, they're going to have to evolve. They're going to have to evolve as a person, as a leader, as a team member, and they have to be comfortable with that. So also from a revenue standpoint, so even with the clients that we're working with, their practices are making more money. For the leaders that they've identified, they're now managing practices at a revenue level that they didn't have that training before that practice made that money. So when you're thinking about the promotion, you have to look at things holistically and set the practice up for success, set you up for success, and set the team member up for success. So if you are sitting here thinking like, I need help. So inside of Private Practice CEO, the work that we do is to make sure that you are equipped to identify the leaders on your team. Also making sure that those leaders have tangible growth plans as they're working inside of your practice, and that you are making decisions with today in mind, but also with the future in mind, to set your practice up for today and years to come. So we help you to form your leadership team ultimately, which is how you're able to scale from the $1 million mark to the multi-million dollar mark sustainably and profitably. So if this is the path that you're trying to follow, or this is the desire that you have for your practice, then Private Practice CEO is definitely it for you. So see the show notes to apply, and I hope to see you inside Private Practice CEO soon. All right, bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.